Shanna Honeycutt here with the Faith-Based Security Network. If you're in Michigan and you serve your church in a safety or security capacity, or if you're just tuned in to the current threat environment and you're seeing the rising threat to houses of worship throughout the U.S., and you think that your ministry should start putting in plans, procedures, putting together a security team, then you're in the right place. The FBSN is coming to Grand Rapids, Michigan on March 28th, 2026. Stay tuned here because we have a lineup of some of our keynote speakers that are going to be there presenting, and you're going to hear directly from them on what they're going to be presenting on and what some of those issues are facing the churches in the area right now. In this clip, we're going to hear from John Riley, who really sets the standard in de-escalation training. We are so lucky to have him as part of the FBSN and grateful that he's joining us for this event. We have Stephen Bucci, who had just an incredible military career in the Green Berets. He was a top Pentagon official, and now we are blessed to have his insight that he has switched gears into the civilian world protecting his church. Mike Simmons will lead some coaching on how to be a good security team leader. But we're going to start this off with our founder and president, Carl Chinn.
If you look at Judges, the second chapter, it basically says that Joshua was buried. He was 110 years old and he died, and he was buried in the land of his inheritance. And then there's a scripture in there says, but then came a generation who did not know about the works of the Lord. That's what we want to avoid. We have learned things through the years from these incidents that some of us have been in, and we like to transfer that knowledge to the next generation and help them understand what it's really like to be ready for these.
Yeah, those who fail to learn from the past are doomed to repeat it, as is often thrown around. And you reference the biblical story. Spend some time reading your Old Testament. And you're going to keep going up on these passages, going, "Haven't we been here before?" Yes, you have, and they didn't learn their lesson. So us as faith-based operators, we ought to learn from the past. We ought to learn what's happening and learn about the trends. I know that Shana does a fantastic job of keeping track of the trends. What are we seeing happen? It looks different today than it did 20 years ago, how people are approaching it. So Shanna, your topic for the upcoming event in Grand Rapids is going to be focusing in a little bit on the perpetrator. So what exactly can we learn about perpetrators? I think most of us have an idea in our mind of what kind of person would do this, but they might be surprised.
Yeah, the presentation helps paint a really clear picture of the pre-attack indicators and the things that we're looking for where we can actually help mitigate those attacks on our houses of worship. But we don't go deeply into that on YouTube because we don't want to glorify the attackers in any way. And this is a public channel. So in our breakout that we do for the events, we'll take a deep dive into the faces, the profiles of the attackers. Pay attention to leakage that you see on the internet, and then just put those let your security presence be visible, not overwhelming, but let it be visible. It's a deterrent. Just a marked police car in the parking lot is a huge deterrent. So
yeah, I believe it was the Covenant School shooting in the Nashville area. That target was picked after a couple others. That shooter had chosen that target after a couple others because they saw security at those other facilities, and so there was a deterrent there for them to say, "No, but I can't attack that." So
correct, and that's one that we dive into in the breakout, and we'll look at some of those writings and why the Covenant was targeted instead of the first ones on the list.
Absolutely. Are there any other takeaways maybe that, somebody who wants to go to the event in March, but between now and then wants to have just some little nugget of something that they can do? You mentioned leakage. Where people start saying things online. Again, if you're not looking at your organization online and what people are saying about it, I'd encourage you get somebody to do that. Do some searches. Where do you pop up when people reference you on social media? You mentioned having some sort of security presence that's visible but not overwhelming. What other things could people consider doing in that space?
To be mindful of the people that are disgruntled, that might have an issue with your church, those even aggressive benevolence seekers. Keep note of them and speak about it in the security team. And then, of course, those domestic violence incidents, those orders of protections and restraining orders.
Do what you can to live in peace with everyone and to be holy, because without holiness, no one can see the Lord. So does that mean walk around holier than thou? No, it just means live it. Empathy, compassionate, and ministry mindset. And just, again, what I'm always advocating in my training seminars and all that, slow down, take a deep breath, and actually assess the situation so that you're actually dealing with what's happening and not what you think is happening. Because if you're very linear thinking, and I see this happen a lot, if you're very linear thinking, your attitude is A happens, I'm doing B. If this happens, I'm punching their lights out. And if you hear yourself say that over and over again, one day when you have this thing that you perceive as A, you're going to go immediately to striking someone. And I've seen a lot of people end up going to jail and escalating situations that absolutely did not have to go there. Folks, please, so much liability is at stake. Slow down and develop that ministry mindset. We're supposed to be ambassadors of Christ. We're supposed to be new creatures with a renewed mind. Are you acting like it? Are you living like it?
I spent my entire adult life as a military officer. I was eventually a colonel in United States Army Special Forces. That's the Green Berets. Did that my whole life. So I know a lot about security from the standpoint of military people being overseas, being in combat zones. I've done that stuff. I also spent 6 years working directly for Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld as his military assistant, starting in July of 2001 through the 9/11 attacks and then through the war on terror. And one of my duties was to oversee his personal security. So the guys that protected him everywhere we went. Also spent time in Iraq, where I was in charge of all of the security details for all of the VIPs that both worked there in Iraq during the war, and generals, admirals, senior civilians, and all of the people who came in and visited, Congress delegations, people like that. Well, then I retired from all of that after finishing in the Army, stayed with the government for a few more years doing Homeland Defense, which is DOD's part of Homeland Security, where I looked at terrorism domestically across the country. Finally retired from that and came to retire in the northern part of Michigan, right up at the tip of the Lower Peninsula. And the first week I was up here as a retired guy, I heard a young man on the radio talking about biblically based security for churches. And it became a complete passion. Eventually, I got involved in the Faith-Based Security Network, did some conference speaking with other like-minded groups that have a Christ-centered view, or at least a parochial view, if you will. But it really finally struck me, if we don't get this right, it's really hard for us to live our constitutional right of freedom of religion and that ability to express ourselves. And what really hit me was this is different than what I did in Baghdad, what I did in Afghanistan and lots of other places in the world. This is in America. And the security cannot be the overriding driver of everything we do. The security has to come under the mission of the church or the mission of the Christian school. That ministry goes first. The security part allows that, and therefore is not just a physical function or an organizational function, it's a ministry. And if it's not looked at that way, we don't do it the way God wants us to. And that can not only make us less effective, but can really damage the mission of whatever church or school you are supporting.
Wonder what would church security teams actually look like if each team member actually knew who they were in Jesus. Not just a child of God, but how were you specifically made as a child of God? And how were you actually made to operate in this team? And this community of each team member knowing who they are and whose they are, and what their specific tactics and spiritual gifts and strengths and personality traits. A team leader that has that type of concept, that the viewpoint of their team, man, that team there could transform communities Sunday after Sunday. The breakout is actually going to be a similar idea, similar topic. However, the way I approach church safety and security, along with just us as believers, is two different approaches. I do the training approach, which when I do conduct various trainings and from conflict resolution to observation skills, pastor protection. But then there's a whole nother pillar that I like to focus on that I feel like that God has definitely called me into, and that is a coaching approach. And I see myself as a kingdom deployment coach, and it's helping people move from where they're at to where God's calling them to be in their various areas of their life. So for this a certain event that afternoon, we're actually going to allow the participants to experience what this actually looks like to be present with God and to know your kingdom, the overall kingdom mission, the kingdom assignment, and the kingdom identity, and actually give the participants a chance to experience a powerful coaching experience, a conversation that's directed, it's intentional, it's powerful, and it's with purpose that they may not actually be used to, because they go to training after training where somebody's up there speaking to them. But this type of an experience is actually drawing what God has placed from within them. And so that's what we're going to be doing in a group coaching session.
So if you're interested in coming to this event in Grand Rapids, Michigan on March 28th, 2026, you can visit our website, fbsnamerica.com/events, to see information on the speakers, on the sessions, travel information about this Michigan event, as well as any other events that we have coming up, including our national event that's going to be happening in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm excited about that one and looking forward to that. Carl, any other words of wisdom, any other encouragement for anybody that's interested in this Michigan event or any of the other live events that FBSN does?
We'll just talk about Michigan. I'm looking so forward to being there, and it's going to be a great event. And like you started this off with, if nothing else, the connectivity and the networking is so strong. I mean, I was first there in 2008 or 2009. And it just started a network of churches connecting with each other. And that's what we love. And we're just continuing to build on that network.
Wonderful. Well, we hope that you will join us again in Grand Rapids, March 28th, 2026. Again, more information on our website at fbsnamerica.com. Thank you so much, Carl, for your time today and for your leadership of the Faith-Based Security Network. And to you viewers, thank you so much for being interested in this topic of keeping your people safe. May the Lord bless you, and may you stand ready, willing, and able to defend your people.